The announcement had been straightforward enough. As part of Interspecies Harmony Week, students are encouraged to bring their companion organisms to Thursday's Xenocultural Studies seminar. Most cadets at the Intergalactic Cultural Exchange Academy arrived with what you'd expect: floating silk jellies from myrrh, mood-shifting lizard fawns, and creatures that purred in infrared. One even brought a small, telepathic cloud that wept poetry in 3 dialects. Liam showed up with a honey badger named Nibbles. He was already regretting it. Nibbles had spent the entire tram ride snarling at reflections in the window and trying to chew through his own harness. He was now crouched under Liam's chair in Lecture Hall 7G, muttering low growls at anything with a tail. His fur was patchy, his eyes glinted with murder, and his reputation had preceded him, though not far enough. Across the room, 3 Dravarian cadets were trying and failing to stifle their laughter. One pointed. Another mimicked Nibbles' squat posture and hissed in mock terror. The tallest leaned over to his friends and said, in perfect galactic standard, "It looks like a larval womp rat with mange." Liam didn't look up. He just tightened his grip on the leash and whispered, "Don't rise to it, Nibs. Not yet." The leash was custom, made from titanium-threaded polyflex, the kind used for kinetic harnesses in zero-grav construction zones. Liam had spent 2 weeks requisitioning it through Earth's embassy. Nibbles had already chewed halfway through it. The lecture hall hummed with excited chatter. Companions from over 67 species hissed, sang, blinked, and undulated across their cadets' desks. A gentle breeze of pheromones swept the room as 2 bio-lantern beetles began an interpretive light display. But every time Nibbles shifted his weight or growled, a ripple of wary glances followed. Instructor Velkith, a 4-eyed Kravian with a doctorate in comparative xenocommunication, raised one of his longer arms for silence. "Fascinating diversity on display today," he trilled. "Truly, the bonds between sapients and their bonded organisms transcend evolutionary paths. Let us begin our presentations. Who would like to start?" A second ear from TIEX floated forward with a sphere of gas that responded to emotion spikes with brief flashes of neural poetry. Applause followed. A Velen cadet introduced a 6-legged glimmercat whose purrs triggered mild euphoria in other mammals. Then Liam was called. He didn't move at first. Then, slowly, he stood and tugged the leash. Nibbles didn't budge. Liam tugged again. "Come on, Nibs, this is your moment." The honey badger stood reluctantly and waddled into view, hunched, scarred, and twitchy. The room collectively leaned back. "This is Nibbles," Liam said, voice steady. "He's not a pet, he's a survivor." The room paused, expecting a punchline. None came. He was orphaned during a drought season in the Kalahari, wandered into a village, ate 3 chickens, a rubber tire, and part of someone's boot before anyone dared touch him. Wildlife Services said he couldn't be rehabilitated, but he followed me everywhere, even after I moved off-world. He's been shot, poisoned, stung by over 30 species of venomous life forms, and once bit a plasma eel in half, didn't even flinch. Murmurs. Instructor Velkith tilted his head. He appears small for a predatory species. The largest Dravarian cadet stood with a chuckle that rattled the walls. What does he hunt, unattended sandwiches? Laughter exploded across the room. Another Dravarian leaned forward. If this is what passes for a companion species on Earth, it's no wonder your kind needs alliances. Even Velkith smirked barely. Liam's fingers tightened on the leash. He's not for show. He doesn't dance, he doesn't emit poetry, and he doesn't respond to commands. He protects, and if you think he's funny, you're not paying attention. Nibbles growled again, a subtle, low, rising rumble. Nearby, a floating petal creature trembled and tucked in its wings. Velkith cleared his throat. "Thank you, Cadet Liam. I suggest you return to your seat before." The words were drowned out by a shriek from the other side of the room. A Leparian ribbon fawn had fluttered too close. Nibbles' lunged upward leash held tight and snapped his teeth an inch from the floating creature's leg. The fawn squealed and spun away in panic. Liam yanked Nibbles back, eyes burning with embarrassment. "Sorry, he doesn't like wings." "Or anything living," someone muttered. Class ended in an uneasy quiet. Cadets filed out, still buzzing about the incident. The Dravarians passed Liam with derisive grins. "Put your vermin on a leash," one said. "He is on a leash," Liam replied, jaw tight. "Then put your leash on a leash," the other replied, and they burst into more laughter. Liam didn't answer. He only walked faster, his arm aching slightly from pulling Nibbles back. That evening, Nibbles gnawed a synthetic bone under Liam's bunk in their quarters, while Liam sat with a stim pack over his shoulder. The old wound there had flared up an accident during early field training. He had taken a tumble down a ravine during a hiking drill and torn a ligament. It had healed, but deep soreness lingered. He watched Nibbles bite down hard enough to splinter the synthetic material and shuddered. "I warned them," he muttered. His console pinged. A message. "Meet us in corridor H12. We'll show you a real predator." No name, just coordinates. He stared at it for a while, heartbeat rising. 2 hours later, Liam found himself in a quiet maintenance corridor. Lights dimmed. No security cameras. No instructors. He'd left Nibbles back in his room. He shouldn't have. 3 figures emerged from the shadows. Dravarians. All older than him, bulkier. Their scales reflected the soft orange of the emergency lighting. One stepped forward. "Still think your Earth beast belongs here, little prey?" Liam didn't answer. The Dravarian reached out and shoved him hard. Pain exploded across his arm as his shoulder struck a conduit panel. He slumped to the floor with a gasp, clutching his wrist. The ache was different this time, sharper, deeper. He knew that pain. Something was broken. "Say something now, beast tamer," the lead said. Footsteps. A low growl echoed down the corridor. Liam's eyes widened. Nibbles was there. He'd chewed through the backup harness. Again. The lead Dravarian sneered and turned. "You brought your rodent?" He lifted a foot. Liam barely got the words out. "Don't." The boot connected with Nibbles' side. It wasn't a strong kick, more like a shove, but it was enough. With a snap like a broken cable, the last strand of leash gave way. The corridor exploded into chaos. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. The air tightened. The corridor felt like it dropped 10 degrees. Then Nibbles let out a noise, short, sharp, and too low for anything that small to produce. It sounded like a malfunctioning vent system in a ship about to explode. The Dravarians didn't register it as a threat. Not until Nibbles launched. He didn't lunge. He detonated. The honey badger struck the lead Dravarian's leg mid-step, using the forward momentum to springboard up his torso. The alien tried to swat him off, but Nibbles had already scaled his side like a tree trunk and sunk his teeth into the soft joint just under the cranial armor ridge, an anatomical weak point exposed only during movement. The Dravarian screamed, not roared, screamed, an awful gurgling bellow that echoed through the maintenance shaft and silenced every other movement. Liam, still on the floor, cradled his left arm and watched with wide, horrified eyes. His humerus had taken the hit. Sharp pain radiated down to his elbow. He didn't need a scanner to know it was fractured, possibly a midshaft break. Every attempt to shift made him see stars. The other 2 Dravarians had frozen only for a second. Then one lunged at Nibbles, swinging a thick forearm to knock the badger loose. Nibbles dropped, but not in retreat. He twisted midair, landed on all fours, and surged forward. The second alien's foot came up in defense. Nibbles latched onto it like a missile and bit down hard enough that bone or whatever Dravarians had in place of it made a sickening crack. The cadet yelped and dropped, clutching his foot. The third turned and bolted, abandoning the fight entirely. "Security!" he bellowed, claws scraping against metal as he sprinted down the corridor. Nibbles didn't hesitate. He chased. Down the ladder shaft. Straight into the dark. A blur of black and gray fur spiraling downward, tail whipping behind him. Gone. Liam stared, chest heaving. Somewhere below, a series of clangs and thumps echoed in rapid succession. Then stillness. It had been 38 seconds. Maybe less. The lead Dravarian, bleeding and groaning, sat crumpled against the corridor wall. One clawed hand pressed against his neck joint, where Nibbles' bite had torn through muscle and flesh. Greenish blood oozed through his fingers. The second writhed, trying to cradle his foot while backing away from the scene. Both looked dazed. A moment later, station alarms kicked in. A pulsing red glow lit the corridor corners. Unscheduled disturbance detected in section H12. Security dispatched. Liam didn't move. He couldn't. He focused on his breathing. In through his nose, shallow, slow, out through clenched teeth. His vision wobbled. His fingers on his right hand twitched as adrenaline drained. He heard scratching behind him, faint claws, skittering over alloy. Then Nibbles was back. Mouth bloodied, one ear nicked, snorting. He sauntered over and nudged Liam's good hand, then curled up beside him like nothing had happened. Medical picked them both up within 8 minutes. Liam was stabilized on site with an immobilization cuff, biosensor patches, and a circulatory stabilizer. Then he was carted off on a grav stretcher with a security escort, 2 escorts actually, one for him. One to carry Nibbles, now locked in an insulated crate, which was rumbling ominously as he paced and huffed inside. The medic, a bug-eyed Trevelyan, kept glancing back at the crate like it was radioactive. "You're sure it can't chew through Durasteel?" Liam tried to shrug and winced. "You're welcome to test that theory." The trip to the infirmary was silent after that. Dr. Cora Jennings was the attending human physician on call. She met Liam in the diagnostics bay already frowning. "I told you not to let that thing out in public. You said he shouldn't be in the mess hall. This was technically a classroom." She didn't look amused. The med scan took 2 full minutes. The results lit up a full schematic of Liam's skeleton in glowing blue and red overlays. Humerus, fracture, spiral, no nerve damage, which is lucky, but you're looking at least 6 weeks in a medcast. 4 if we accelerate with osteostim. I'll take 4. You don't get a choice yet. Let's reduce the fracture and see how the tissue takes the bonding. The next half hour was not fun. Jennings numbed the area and guided a robotic manipulator to realign the break. Liam clenched his jaw and grunted through the pressure. When the bone slid back into place, he nearly blacked out. Once the cast wrapped a dull, breathable polymer with microstim pads embedded, Jennings sat back. No strenuous activity for a month. No combat training, no lifting over 5 kilos, and definitely no leash handling that thing until you're healed. Liam's voice was hoarse. "Is Nibbles all right?" "He's under observation in isolation. 4 minor lacerations, 1 ear torn, and a cracked claw sheath. But he's pacing, growling at the wall, looks offended. That's his default state." Jennings sighed and sat beside him on the diagnostic table. "I read the initial report. You were assaulted." "Yeah. Do you want to press charges?" Liam didn't answer right away. "No, I want to graduate, not start a clan feud with a warrior species." She nodded, but her eyes narrowed. "You understand this is serious. You're lucky it was a clean fracture. If he'd slammed you at a different angle, your shoulder could have been dislocated, or worse." "I know." Jennings leaned back, rubbed her temple. "Your pet put one in the infirmary with a neck injury, another with a fractured metatarsal, and chased a third down 4 levels. Do you have any idea how many rules that breaks?" "Did he kill anyone?" "Barely." "Then no, I don't feel bad." She stared at him for a long second, then smiled barely. "You Earth kids, you terrify the admin board." 2 days passed. Liam remained in the infirmary, hooked up to a nutrient IV and on light analgesics. His body ached from the blunt trauma of being slammed into the wall, and his shoulder protested every time he shifted. But the visitors were worse. The first to arrive was a Mirren, who left a poem tube of sympathy, encoded in scent. The second was a Kravian tutor who bowed deeply and wordlessly, left a jar of regenerative jelly, normally used for burns. The third was unexpected. A tall Dravarian cadet, not the one who had attacked him. This one wore full academy formal wear and approached with his arms crossed. He said nothing. He placed a rectangular box of dried cured meat on the side table and stepped back. Liam blinked. Thanks?" The Dravarian stared, then slowly inclined his head, and left. Jennings, observing from her office window, gave a low whistle. "That's a high-form apology. You may have just been formally accepted into their warrior caste, or insulted beyond measure. Hard to tell." Liam sighed. "Is Nibbles okay?" "He's refusing to eat unless you're in the room." That night, they let Nibbles in. He climbed up beside the bed, turned 3 tight circles, and plopped down with a long exhale that sounded like an industrial fan giving up. Then he twitched in his sleep and began snoring, loudly, rhythmically. Liam laid back and stared at the ceiling, cast resting on his chest. Somewhere, he knew the footage would be leaking, probably already had. Someone on the station security team had a sense of humor. 38 seconds of chaos, now likely being played on loop in mess halls across the system. He closed his eyes. No one laughed at Nibbles anymore. And they sure as hell didn't laugh at the guy who brought him. By the third morning in the infirmary, the buzz had turned into a full-on interspecies spectacle. Liam knew something was wrong the moment he woke up and found 3 different alien news crews outside the glass door of his room. 2 were hover drones with translation overlays beaming directly into the hallway. The third was a Sarithi wearing a shimmering emotion shroud, its color shifting from orange intrigue to violet disbelief as it narrated with theatrical flourish in its home dialect. Nibbles, curled at the foot of Liam's bed, opened one eye at the commotion, snorted, and went back to sleep. His snoring had evolved into a stuttered rumble that occasionally startled the medical equipment. Dr. Jennings appeared beside Liam's bed with a mug of coffee and a look that said she'd aged 5 years overnight. "It's out," she said simply. Liam pushed himself upright slowly, carefully. His medcast arm braced against a pillow and rubbed his face. The footage? Oh yes, full 38 seconds. Someone on the station's security team leaked it to a popular Xeno streamer, the one with the fake antennae and weekly conspiracy marathons. Liam groaned. "Please tell me I'm not in the thumbnail." "You're in every thumbnail, along with him." She jerked a thumb toward Nibbles. "I warned them," Liam muttered. "You did," Jennings agreed, "and now the entire union knows it. Half the views are from military training academies. Some think it's a recruitment ad. There's even a meme going around Nibbles photoshopped onto a diplomatic flag with the caption, 'Negotiate gently.'" Liam buried his face in his good hand. Later that day, Dean Varek, an aging Trelvani with 6 limbs and diplomatic immunity, requested a private meeting with Liam. They met in the infirmary's neutral comms room. Liam had to be wheeled in. His ribs still ached, and even with the bone knitters working overtime, bruising across his back was still visible under dermal overlays. "Cadet Liam," Varek said in his slow, measured tone, "your file indicates you were born in the Montana Expanse on Earth, near wildlife territory?" "Yes, sir, raised near one of the protected reserves. My mom's an ecologist, my dad's a ranger." "That explains the animal." "He's not just an animal," Liam said. "He's family." Dean Varek tapped a tablet with one gnarled claw. "The footage has gone viral. The Dravarian embassy has requested a disciplinary review. However," he paused here with a sigh, "they also submitted a formal retraction of fault, stating that their cadets acted dishonorably and that Earth's battle beasts are not to be provoked." Liam blinked. "They actually called Nibbles a battle beast?" Translated loosely from Dravarian Standard. Original term meant something like rage cub with claws of ruin. Liam looked down, failing to hide the smallest grin. Varek continued, "The Academy is updating its companion species protocols. From now on, Earth origin fauna must be screened and security cleared before class appearances, specifically carnivores. Or omnivores. Or anything with teeth, really." "Understood." Varek's eyes narrowed. "But this does place you in an unusual position. You're something of a figurehead now." "I didn't ask to be." "No one does. The universe selects its champions with chaotic indifference." There was a pause. Varek leaned forward, steepling his claws. "Cadet, if your animal had killed one of them, we would be in a very different room, having a very different conversation." "I know. And yet you brought him here." Liam hesitated. "He follows me. Always has. I didn't expect him to go that far. I thought the leash would hold. You should have told us about the previous incidents. Every time I reported Nibbles acting up, I got laughed out of the filing queue, or told he was adorably aggressive. No one listens when humans say danger doesn't always look big or growly." Varek nodded slowly. "Then it's a lesson learned, by all of us." By the end of the week, Liam was cleared for partial movement. He could walk with a brace, and his medcast now had neural inhibitors to keep pain flares low, though he still couldn't lift anything heavier than a datapad with his left arm. The rib bruising would take another week to fade, even with dermal regen patches, but he was upright, and the consequences had only begun. Walking through the dormitory wing was an exercise in awkward stares. Some cadets gave him wide berths. Others stared with barely disguised awe. A pair of Delari whispered excitedly as he passed, and one even dropped a tray when Nibbles padded silently beside Liam, now fitted with a muzzle and full-body harness that looked more like riot armor than pet gear. Liam wasn't sure which was worse, being mocked or being feared. He stepped into the lounge to find Trish waiting, a fellow Earth cadet, older by a year, with a reputation for brutal honesty and a knack for xenopolitical analysis. "Nice warpath," she said, motioning toward the lounge screen, which was still cycling through clips of the incident. Some had added dramatic orchestral overlays. One had Nibbles set to opera. "I've created a monster," Liam muttered. "You brought a monster. Big difference." She tilted her head. "You all right?" "Yeah, cast itches. Back still hurts when I sneeze." "Then don't sneeze." "I try not to." They sat together while Nibbles curled under the table. Trish reached into her coat and slid something across the table. A mini data chip. "What's this?" "Dravarian apology token. You're being offered a guest seat in one of their warrior ethics seminars. That's their version of, we acknowledge your strength and invite you not to murder us in future cycles." Liam stared at it. "You're serious?" "Dead." "Do I have to fight someone?" "No, but they'll probably ask you to talk about Earth predators, or battle bonding, or emotional loyalty between species." Liam leaned back with a sigh. "They really think I trained him to do that?" "Of course they do. That's the only thing that makes it make sense to them." Trish leaned in. "That's the point, Liam. They don't get that something so small and weird-looking could take down 3 elite cadets unless it was engineered to. They don't get Nibbles." "I'm not sure I do either." "Doesn't matter. You brought him here. You warned them." They laughed. He didn't. 2 days later, a new instructor joined Liam's xenocultural studies seminar. Dr. Dolly Chen, human, sharp-eyed, and clearly unimpressed with ceremony. She walked in, dropped her notes on the podium, and got straight to the point. "All right, everyone here's seen the video. Probably twice." Murmurs, some laughter. A Dravarian near the back gave a low grumble. Chen raised an eyebrow. "Let's talk about cultural assumptions, specifically underestimation." She turned to the holoscreen and tapped a few controls. Nibbles' face appeared, frozen mid-lunge, eyes wild, fur bristling. A few cadets flinched. "This," Chen said calmly, "is Mellivora capensis, also known as a honey badger. It is not large, it is not armored, it cannot fly, spit acid, or emit sonic shrieks." She waited a beat. "And it is almost unkillable." Another tap graphs and footage from Earth zoology records played in succession. Nibbles fighting off a cobra, digging through reinforced barriers, resisting tranquilizers. This is what humanity evolved alongside. Not tame forests, not safe jungles, places where creatures kill you because you walk the wrong direction. Liam sat at the edge of the group, silent. Chen looked directly at him. Cadet Liam brought a living warning label to class, and the galaxy laughed. No one laughed now. She shut the holoscreen off. "Today's assignment: write a comparative report on the most dangerous-looking creature from your homeworld and explain why it's less of a threat than something half its size from another species." She smirked. "You've all got a lot to learn." By week 3, Liam could finally lift his arm above chest level without wanting to bite through his tongue. The medcast was off, replaced with a wrap to support the soft tissue as it healed naturally. Full strength would take another few weeks, but the bone had fused well, and Dr. Jennings cleared him for limited training. His ribs still ached if he twisted too fast or coughed. He moved a bit slower now, sat more carefully, and flinched when someone walked up too quickly behind him. That part hadn't quite faded yet. The physical pain was manageable. The rest of it, that was trickier. The attention hadn't died down. He'd been interviewed twice by the campus interspecies review board, once by an actual xenoethologist from the Galactic Institute. "Is it true your species keeps apex-level predators as household companions?" And had declined 4 offers to participate in holo-documentaries about Earth's fiercest fauna. He didn't feel fierce. He felt like a guy who'd been jumped in a corridor and happened to have a grumpy mammal nearby. But reputation doesn't care about accuracy, especially when a meme's involved. At first, the attention had made Liam self-conscious. Now, it was just exhausting. He was sitting outside the academy's main conservatory, arm resting in his sling, watching students pass when he heard the now familiar rhythm of claws on stone. Nibbles trotted into view, dragging a security officer behind him. Officer Brell, a fish-skinned Kintari with infinite patience and zero speed, looked utterly done with life. "Cadet Liam," Brell said, voice dry, "your animal bypassed 3 biometric locks and a snack dispenser to find you." Liam raised an eyebrow. He got into a dispenser? He removed the casing, ate the wiring, then defecated in someone's protein tray. Liam stood slowly and offered a half smile. He's having a productive morning. Brell unhooked the harness with a tired grunt. "He's your problem again." Nibbles snorted, tail up, and took his place at Liam's side like he owned the pathway. He did not, in any technical sense, own the pathway. But no one tried to correct him. That afternoon, Liam received a ping from Academy Operations. Subject: Cultural Relations invite attendance requested. Location: Assembly Hall B. Time: 1 cycle from receipt. No explanation, just a time, a place, and a note at the bottom: dress appropriate to Earth custom. He had a bad feeling. Assembly Hall B was packed. Cadets, instructors, security officers, and a whole contingent of diplomatic observers filled the space wall to wall. The Academy's upper command staff sat at a long panel at the front, flanked by holographic banners representing each Union species. Liam stepped in, wearing his formal Earth Cadet uniform, pressed navy sleeves, boots polished, Academy crest displayed proudly on his chest. His arm brace was still visible, but he'd removed the sling. Nibbles wore a muzzle, technically. It had been fastened, but somehow during transit it had ended up half unclipped and dangling from one ear. Security had decided not to risk trying again. Dean Varric stood and gestured him forward. Cadet Liam, front and center. He walked stiffly to the raised platform and stood beneath the high lights, heart pounding. Varric's voice echoed. "As part of Interspecies Harmony Week's closing ceremony, we wish to recognize a cadet who unintentionally advanced cross-species understanding through unconventional means." Laughter rippled, nervous, cautious. The footage of the recent corridor incident has sparked debate, yes, but also diplomacy. The Dravarian ambassador has since extended an offer of mutual study into Terran species. Several warrior cultures have formally acknowledged Earth's classification as a resilient biosphere, and 3 high-profile academies are requesting exchange programs with Earth's conservation centers. Varric turned to Liam. "You may not have set out to make history, cadet, but you have. Stand proud." A round of respectful applause followed, measured, but genuine. Then, to Liam's horror, the holoscreens behind the panel flickered on. The corridor footage began to play again. Nibbles launching, climbing, biting. The gasps came at the same moments they always did. The part where Nibbles tore through armor plating like packing foam. The part where he chased a fully grown Dravarian down a vertical shaft without hesitation. The footage ended, the lights dimmed, and a new image appeared on the screen. A still frame. Liam slumped against the corridor wall, arm cradled, blood on his lip, expression blank, but Nibbles was curled at his side, ears flat, eyes locked on the unconscious attackers like a coiled spring, ready for a second round. Beneath the image was a single caption, written in Galactic Standard and translated underneath. "He's not a pet, he's a survivor." Liam didn't know who had submitted it, but he felt his throat tighten. After the ceremony, as the crowd dispersed, one of the injured Dravarians approached. It was the first one, the leader. The one Nibbles had bitten below the neck. The alien still bore the marks. A visible patch along his jaw was healing slowly, covered in a bio-wrap with internal regen fluids. He looked different, less proud, more aware. He stopped a meter from Liam and gave a slow, deliberate nod. Not deep, not submissive, but respectful. Then he spoke. "I mistook your companion for something weak." Liam answered quietly. "A lot of people do. I won't again." The Dravarian hesitated, then held out a box engraved, square, heavy. Liam accepted it. Inside is dried and boar jerky. We share it with allies we hope never to fight again. Liam nodded. I hope not too. The alien left without another word. A few days later, Liam was back in light-duty classes. His arm was healing well, his balance had returned. And Nibbles had been given special clearance to attend seminars under supervision, with a double harness and strict distance requirements from anything that could hover, sing, or glow. Instructor Velkith didn't laugh when Liam entered the classroom this time. Instead, the four-eyed professor raised both hands and said calmly, Nibbles may remain if he promises not to eat the class. Nibbles growled. Just once. It was enough to make half the room sit straighter. That night, Liam sat outside the academy dorms under a synthetic starlit dome, feeding Nibbles pieces of a meat stick from the Dravarian box. The badger crunched loudly, tail flicking with every bite. Trish found him there, arms folded, wearing her usual half-smile. You know, she said, sitting beside him, in another universe, you'd be kicked out for this. Probably. But in this one, you're the guy who brought the war badger. I didn't mean to. You never do. That's the trick. They sat in silence a moment. Nibbles finished the last of the jerky and immediately tried to chew the box. Liam nudged it away. Not food. Nibbles looked personally offended. Trish nodded toward the night sky. So, what now? Liam leaned back, wincing slightly as his shoulder reminded him not everything was healed yet. Now, I study, I graduate, I figure out where he's allowed to come with me and where he's legally classified as a public safety threat. Everywhere? Yeah, pretty much. She smirked. A wind stirred through the artificial trees. Somewhere distant, the academy